Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly, where we cover all things local in Santa Clarita Valley every Saturday morning at 9 on KQRU 107.9. Join hosts Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty as they uncover the latest news, events, sports highlights, and more, keeping you connected and engaged with what matters most in our hometown.
All right, so welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly with Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty. I'm Sage, he's Tim. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. and on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. So we're going to be on Thursdays. So we had our first episode air just last week. So make sure you tune in. But we're also on YouTube and Instagram. You can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. So with a bold plan to go all electric by 2035, what does the road ahead really look like for Californians? Will EVs be affordable? Can our grid keep up? And how are these ambitious green policies already changing our state? We'll be looking at that, and we will hear from both Assemblywoman Pilar Schiavo and U.S. Senator Alex Padilla. And then next, we'll look at a couple of bills introduced by Pilar Schiavo on the Chiquita Canyon Landfill. They're making their way through the state assembly. Even though the landfill ceased operations in January, problems with pollution and odors remain. So in sports, West Ranch baseball team is headed to the CIF Southern Section playoffs as the Foothill League champion. The Saugus softball team went undefeated, won the Foothill League title and plays Santa Margarita in the first round of the CIF Southern Section playoffs. The Dodgers split 4 games with the Diamondbacks in Arizona before heading back to Dodger Stadium for a 9-game homestand, and the Rams will play the Jacksonville Jaguars at Wembley Stadium in London on October 19th, part of the NFL's international schedule in 2025. The Rams used 2 of their first 3 draft picks on offensive players, adding depth and more weapons for quarterback Matthew Stafford. So first off, let's talk about California's EV future. Cleaner air, stable climate, and energy independence. These are some of the promises of California's major shift towards electric vehicles and green policies. But with goals like banning new gas cars sales by 2035, a lot of questions come up. And today, we're looking at the impact on your wallet, our cities, and the future of how we move in the Golden State.
California, ground zero for America's electric vehicle revolution, right? But what if the road to that all-EV future just hit a massive political pothole? We're talking about a major challenge to California's plans. In May 2025, the U.S. House of Representatives took a significant vote. They moved to challenge California's authority to ban the sale of new gasoline-powered cars by 2035. House Resolution 88 targeted the EPA waiver that allowed California to implement its plan to phase out gas-powered vehicles by 2035, effectively forcing automakers to produce only electric vehicles in the state. The move to block California's 2035 plan saw some surprising support. Among those voting with House Republicans on this issue was California's own Congressman George Whitesides, a Democrat representing the 27th District. But this isn't just a far-off political debate. It has huge implications right here at home. It raises big questions about California's ambitious environmental goals, the future of EVs, and what it all means for your wallet and our environment. So, with these new challenges emerging, what is the reality of California's green ambitions? Beyond the politics, can California truly achieve its goals? Will EVs become affordable for most of us by 2030 or 2035? Can our public transport step up? And critically, is our power grid ready for millions of new electric cars? So let's cut through the noise and look at the facts behind California's electrifying and now highly contested future. Now, all this sets the stage for California's huge push towards zero-emission vehicles, or ZEVs, mostly electric cars. The state has set a bold target. By 2035, 100% of all new passenger cars and light trucks sold here must be zero-emission. That's a massive transformation in just over a decade. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a regulation. But this ambitious plan isn't without its critics and challenges, especially from outside the state. The Clean Air Act provides California with special waiver authority to set its own stricter vehicle emission standards, which is the legal foundation for its regulation phasing out the sale of new gasoline-powered vehicles by 2035. And this latest move by House Republicans has sparked a lot of debate, with Republican-led efforts aiming to block California's authority to set its own stricter emissions standards and effectively challenge this 2035 goal. California leaders like Senator Alex Padilla have been vocal in defending the state's direction. On May 8th, 2025, Senator Padilla took to the floor of the U.S. Senate to defend the Clean Air Act and California's environmental standards.
Thanks to the Clean Air Act, for 50 years, California has had the legal authority to set its own emission standards to protect the health of our residents and our natural resources. This authority was granted by Congress on a bipartisan basis in recognition of California's unique air quality challenges, but also its capabilities as policy leaders. But today, Republicans are threatening to distort the Congressional Review Act and the CRA process in an effort to slow down our progress. Now, one of the most outlandish things I've heard from my Republican colleagues these past few weeks, as it pertains to these Clean Air Act waivers, is that they're concerned that these waivers and other regulations would stifle the California economy. That, quote, the market is not ready, end quote. Or I've heard some say that they're concerned that this could raise prices on consumers. Really? These are the same Republican members who have stayed silent on Donald Trump's imposed universal tariffs that are actually already increasing prices. So now you're worried about increased costs for American families? Where have you been these last several weeks? But I have some good news for you. In case you haven't heard, California's proven this argument wrong already. In recent years, you've heard me reference time and again that California was the 5th largest economy in the world. Well, as of a couple weeks ago, California is now the 4th largest economy in the world. Imagine that. Policy leadership, climate leadership, and economic growth.
And this brings us to a big question many Californians are asking. Will EVs even be affordable for most people by, say, 2030, let alone 2035? Right now, the upfront cost of a new EV can be higher than a similar gas car, even though that gap is narrowing. However, a few things are changing. Battery prices are falling. More models, including some more affordable options, are hitting the market. And then there are incentives, federal tax credits, and California state programs like Clean Cars for All, which can bring the price down significantly, especially for income-qualified folks. Plus, the used EV market is growing, offering another path to ownership. And don't forget the total cost of ownership. Electricity is generally cheaper than gas, and EVs typically need less maintenance. So over the life of the car, an EV can save you money. But will that upfront sticker shock disappear for most people by 2030? That's the million-dollar question, and a lot depends on continued innovation and supportive policies. As more Californians think about switching to electric vehicles, one of the biggest questions is always about charging. Will there be enough stations? Can I make it on a long trip? That's often called range anxiety, the very real fear that your EV might run out of power before you reach the next charger. Assemblymember Pilar Schiavo represents Santa Clarita and parts of the San Fernando Valley, and she's working to expand California's charging network. Let's listen to her take on tackling range anxiety and building out that vital infrastructure in a committee meeting in February 2024.
However, as biggest concerns folks have when considering switching to an EV, and recharging networks are the biggest concern addressed. California's GHGs account for around 1/4 of California's GHG structure and more. However, as passenger vehicles account for around 1/4 of California's GHGs, barriers to rapid EV adoption need to be addressed. Next to cost, which is decreasing, Availability and reliability of charging networks are the biggest concerns folks have when considering switching to an EV. And recent experiences of EV owners demonstrate a troubling trend in charger reliability shortfalls. And I'd also note, we've seen that EV vehicles are, the selling of EV vehicles or EV vehicle sales have been down, and we know that one of the big concerns leading to that is people's concerns about range anxiety. We all know about range anxiety up here. My colleagues on the select committee no doubt have a story or two to share about their own charging experiences, as do I. And our focus will be to delve into the many aspects of EV charging, difficulties consumers are facing, what government and industry are doing in response, and how the legislature can engage to help create greater certainty for consumers. One of the things that I always think about, I hadn't really thought about this until I talked with one of the rental car companies, is that, rental cars are also transitioning to electric. And I think about, my mom or my dad renting an electric car and they don't have one, or, whoever. And there's such a learning curve when you get an electric car, and you have to get a million apps for every little charger that you're going to use. And, it's hard for me to imagine how this is going to work for people and it not be a total nightmare for their experience. And so I think that, not only for that scenario, but just for all of our sanities, these agreements are so important. And, I've been hearing about some silver linings, which is exciting to hear. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel on this around, are we ever going to be able to get to one app where we can see everything and we can pay and we can pull up and just charge as easily as, an integrated system we know happens at Tesla?
It's not just about personal cars, though. For California to meet its climate goals, more people need to use public transportation. The state wants to see a big reduction in the miles we all drive. But will public transit be sufficient, convenient, and widespread enough by 2035 to make a real dent? Cities like LA are investing heavily in expanding their systems and electrifying their bus fleets. But the scale of improvement needed is huge. Some estimates suggest ridership needs to increase many times over. Funding these massive projects and ensuring reliable, frequent service across our sprawling state is a constant challenge. It's a critical piece of the puzzle, but there's a long road ahead. Okay, so let's say millions of EVs hit the roads. Where's all that electricity going to come from? And can our grid handle it, especially during a classic California heat wave when everyone's blasting the AC? This is a huge concern. California's grid operators are planning for this. The strategy involves a few key things. First is more renewable energy. California is already committed to a cleaner energy supply. Second are grid upgrades, investing in making the grid more robust and modern. Third is managed charging. This is really important. It means encouraging people to charge their EVs during off-peak hours, like overnight, when there's less demand on the grid and often more renewable energy available. Think smart chargers and time of use electricity rates. And last, we have energy storage. Massive batteries are being deployed to store solar power generated during the day for use in the evening. It's a massive undertaking, and there will definitely be challenges, especially in ensuring reliability and preventing localized overloads. But the plan is to evolve the grid with the growth of EVs, not after it's too late. With all these efforts and costs, are California's broader environmental policies actually making a difference in our cities? When it comes to air quality, the long-term answer is yes. Decades of tough regulations on vehicles and industry have significantly reduced harmful pollutants in major cities like Los Angeles and San Francisco. We still have a ways to go, especially with challenges like wildfire smoke, but those policies have prevented our air from being far worse and are crucial for public health. Will it be a smooth ride? Probably not. Will all the goals be met exactly on schedule? History suggests there will be bumps. But as Senator Padilla said recently on the Senate floor, California is committed to pushing the boundaries.
Donald Trump returned to the White House a few months ago There's a whole lot of people throughout California and beyond that knew that California had a target on its back. For more than half a century, we've been trailblazers in a number of policy areas, but especially in the fight for environmental protections and public health protections. And for the last decade, we've been proud to, shouldn't have to, but been proud to stand up to each and every one of Donald Trump's attacks on our clean air and clean water, not just through his rhetoric, but through his actions. So while the particular procedural battle that we find ourselves in today over the Clean Air Act waivers may be new, the larger war on California's climate leadership and progress is not new.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Tim. Tim, can you tell us about what's going on with the Chiquita Canyon landfill?
Okay, so the Chiquita Canyon landfill, it didn't close, but they ceased operations in January. It's still open. They're not collecting any new trash, but the trash that is there is still creating a ton of pollution and a ton of problems for the neighboring communities. The Chiquita Canyon landfill stopped operating in January, but problems remain for neighboring communities. There are two bills making their way through the state assembly addressing those problems, and the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors is supporting them. Assembly member Pilar Schiavo introduced the bills, one to compensate those who have financial losses and expenses because of the pollution produced by the landfill, and one that increases operator accountability and requires regular reporting on the gas and odor emissions. The county supervisors threw their support behind the bills and instructed the Department of Public Works to assess the implications of closing the landfill on countywide waste handling operations. Chiquita Canyon Landfill is no longer operational, but the county still needs to send its trash and waste somewhere. The landfill owners agreed to address the noxious odors coming from the landfill, what has been described as an underground chemical reaction producing leachate and other toxic chemicals that is polluting the air, soil, and water around the landfill. The operators of the landfill are facing at least 2 lawsuits too. A group of residents from nearby Castaic and Valverde sued the landfill operators in October 2024. LA County also filed a lawsuit against the landfill in December regarding the noxious chemical emissions. Meanwhile, a group of residents have been asking the county to declare a local emergency and provide resources to nearby residents, including compensation for relocation costs.
All right. Thank you, Tim. So you're listening to KQRU 107.9 FM in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. and on Saturday mornings at 9 on YouTube, Instagram, wherever you listen to podcasts. So, Tim, tell us what you know about local sports. Give us an update.
Okay, so it's time for the CIF Southern Section baseball and softball playoffs. The playoff brackets were released, and let's start with baseball. The West Ranch baseball team won the Foothill League Championship, and they won it for the first time since 2016. West Ranch heads to the CIF Southern Section playoffs to face Palm Desert in the first round of Division II. It won't be an easy first-round test for West Ranch. Palm Desert is 23-4 and won the Desert Empire Championship. Palm Desert also enters the playoffs with a 13-game winning streak. West Ranch's Hunter Manning emerged as the ace of the pitching staff with a 0.78 ERA and 89 strikeouts in 53 2/3 innings pitched. He has only given up 6 earned runs all season. The Hart baseball team finished in second place in the Foothill League and will play Cajon in the first round of the CIF Southern Section playoffs in Division III. Hart won the Southern Section Division II championship last year. Pitcher Michael Hogan will be asked again to produce in the playoffs for Hart. He was a key member of the championship run in 2024. Cajon is 19-8 and finished in 4th place in the Citrus Belt League. The Castaic baseball team finished in 4th place in the Foothill League and plays Paloma Valley in the first round of the CIF Section playoffs in Division III. Paloma Valley is 18-10 and finished in 2nd place in the Ivy League. Castaic's Chad Kober leads the team with 6 home runs and 23 RBIs in 28 games. Saugus baseball team finished in 3rd place in the Foothill League and plays Weisburn Da Vinci in the first round of the Division IV playoffs. Weisburn Da Vinci is 18-10 and finished in 3rd place in the Pioneer League. The Trinity Classical Academy baseball team won the Heritage League championship and is 20-2. Trinity plays Don Lugo in the first round of the Division IV playoffs. Don Lugo is 17-2 and finished in 2nd place in the Mount Baldy League. And on to softball. The softball playoffs are also starting. And the Saugus softball team won the Foothill League championship with an undefeated 12-0 league record. Saugus softball team heads into the CIF Southern Section playoffs with a perfect undefeated record in the Foothill League and a 13-game winning streak. Saugus plays Santa Margarita in the first round of the CIF Southern Section Division II playoffs. Santa Margarita is 18-9-1 and is an at-large team from the Trinity League. Amelia Johnson leads Saugus with the .506 batting average in 27 games, hit 7 home runs, and has a team-leading 36 RBIs. Jordan Shepard leads Saugus with 8 home runs and has 27 RBIs. The Valencia softball team finished in second place in the Foothill League and plays Crescenta Valley in the first round of the Division III playoffs. Crescenta Valley is 15-7 and finished in third place in the Pacific League. Blair Roon hit .412 for Valencia in 20 games and hit 4 home runs with 15 RBIs. Carly Kearns had another stellar season pitching for Valencia. She was 4-2 with a 2.19 ERA and 188 strikeouts and 131 and a third innings pitched. The Hart softball team made a late season surge and finished in fourth place in the Foothill League to secure a playoff spot in Division 5. Hart plays JW North from Riverside in the first round of the playoffs. JW North is 17-10 and the second place team from the Sun Belt League. Hart's Sadie Curtis leads the team with a .568 batting average and has 4 home runs and 26 RBIs. Hannah Cooks leads Hart with 5 home runs. The West Ranch softball team finished in third place in the Foothill League and plays Anaheim in the first round of the Division 5 playoffs. Anaheim is 20-4 and the second place team from the Coast League. Naomi Stoll leads West Ranch with 6 home runs, and Tori Price has 4 home runs. The Santa Clarita Christian softball team made it to the playoffs too. They will play Cathedral City in the first round of the Division 8 playoffs. Santa Clarita Christian is 9-7-1 and finished in fourth place in the Heritage League. Cathedral City is 11-3 and the second place team from the Sun Valley League. So I'm going to hand it over to Sage to talk about the Dodgers.
All right, thank you, Tim. So let's talk about Major League Baseball. So the Dodgers ended a 7-game road trip splitting a pair of games against the Diamondbacks in Arizona. After taking 2 of 3 games against the Marlins in Miami, the Dodgers went to Arizona for a 4-game series. The Dodgers lost the first game to the Diamondbacks 5-3 before beating Arizona in the second game 14-11. It was one of the wildest games of the season. The Dodgers scored 5 runs in the third inning to take an 8-3 lead. But Lourdes Gurriel hit a grand slam for the Diamondbacks in the 5th inning to tie the score 8-8. Arizona padded its lead, scoring a run in the 6th inning and 2 runs in the 8th inning to take an 11-8 lead. Ketel hit his second home run of the game, a solo shot, in the 8th inning. Down 3 runs in the top of the 9th, the Dodgers scored 6 runs to take a 14-11 lead. Shohei Ohtani capped the rally with a 3-run home run to break an 11-11 tie and give the Dodgers a 3-run lead. Tanner Scott shut down the Diamondbacks in the bottom of the 9th, striking out 2 and earning his 9th save of the season. The Dodgers were shut out 3-0 in the next game before pounding the Diamondbacks in the 4th and final game 8-1. It was a productive road trip for the Dodgers that ended with a tough test against the Diamondbacks. The Dodgers returned home for a 3-game series against the Oakland A's. It is the start of a 9-game homestand. Tim, so ending a 7-game road trip, including a stop in Miami, how would you assess the overall success and productivity of this trip for the Dodgers?
Yeah, so the Dodgers went 4-3 on that road trip. They won 4 of the 7 games that they played. And anytime you go on a road trip and come back with a winning record, it's a good road trip. You know, even though the Marlins aren't the best team in the league, you know, they might be in the running for the worst team in the league. They're just not very good. So sweeping a team in their stadium on the road, that's a huge accomplishment. I don't care how good the other team is. If you can sweep a team in their stadium, or they didn't sweep them, they took 2 or 3 games. I'm sorry. So if you can take 2 or 3 games against a team in their own ballpark, in their home ballpark, that's a good road trip.
Thank you, Tim. Let's talk about the NFL. We haven't really talked about the Rams in a while. The Los Angeles Rams are slowly getting a look at what the schedule next season will look like. The Rams will play the Jacksonville Jaguars at Wembley Stadium in London. Yep, that London, England, in October as part of the NFL's international schedule. The Rams open the season at home against the Houston Texans and play the Eagles in Week 3 in Philadelphia. It will be a rematch of the playoff game in the snow the Rams lost last year. The first game between the Rams and 49ers is in Week 5 on a Thursday night in SoFi Stadium. The Rams play the Detroit Lions and former quarterback Jared Goff at SoFi in Week 15. The Rams are also welcoming new players to the team. They picked a tight end and a running back with 2 of their first 3 picks in the draft and traded for veteran wide receiver Devontae Adams, giving quarterback Matthew Stafford plenty to work with on offense. So the Rams picked Terrence Ferguson, a tight end from the University of Oregon. In the second round of the NFL draft, the Rams selected Jarquez Hunter, a running back from Auburn, in the 4th round. In between those picks, the Rams took edge rusher Josiah Stewart from Michigan in the 3rd round. Ferguson's little brother was more excited than him about being drafted by the Rams. His brother grew up rooting for the Detroit Lions and Stafford. He might not be happy the Lions traded Stafford to the Rams a few years ago, but he was excited that his older brother is on the same team as Stafford. And this is a quote from Ferguson: "I get to play with the GOAT." So, Tim, what kind of challenge does preparing for a game in London present for both the players and the coaching staff?
Yes, I mean this is the thing now. This is the thing in the NFL. And every team is going to have to experience a game in Europe, either in London. They played in Madrid last year. They played in Germany last year. So the NFL is trying to expand its fan base and trying to move into new markets. And it is a test. It is a test, especially for teams on the West Coast, like the Rams, the Niners, the Chargers, who have to travel across the country and then across the Atlantic Ocean to get to these games that are 6-7 hours away, 7,000 miles away. So it is a test. It is a challenge, especially for teams like the Rams. But at the same time, the travel and the distance and the time spent in another country, it's all easier these days. The travel is top first class for the players and the coaches, and the living conditions, the hotels and everything that the Rams have to, the places the Rams have to stay in to prepare for these games. It's all, top level. They're not going to be slumming it when they're in these countries. So that part's nice. But at the same time, it does take a toll, and it will be a challenge for them to play. Luckily, they get to play a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars that isn't one of the best teams in the league by any measure. So it should be an easy game. It should be an easy time for the Rams, as long as they're healthy and they don't try to overlook a game like this against the Jaguars. But it's a challenge. It is hard. I think it's hard on the players to be on the road for that long and to be that far away from home. It does take a toll on your body, and it messes up your system a little bit. And it'll be nice to see the Rams play in a new market and try to build some new fans.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Tim. So we looking forward to that. But that's our show. So tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM at 5:30 on Thursday evenings and 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com, wherever you listen to podcasts. So leave us a comment and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQRU 107.9. Visit SantaClaritaStar.com for more content and tune in right here to KQRU 107.9. A new voice for Santa Clarita.